So the last two important tracks that I want to spend some time on would be effects tracks and group tracks. Also skipping VCA tracks. If you know what a VCA is, you can do that. Very useful. Not going to cover that right now. Now the simpler one of the two is probably to cover effects tracks. So let's create one. I am going to create another reverb. So let's add that same reverence. In fact, let me show you. You can create it from here while you're creating the track, but I'll add the effect later on. This is going to be a stereo track. It shows you where it goes to my stereo out, and I can give it a name. So I'm going to call it Concert Hall Reverb. I'm adding that track. Now you can see it adds it into a folder of effects channels with a name effect there, so you can have multiple ones. And you can see it's stereo, and it has the name I gave it. Now, if I had selected a plugin to add on this effects track at the time of creating it, it would appear in the first insert here, but you can create it manually. You can also have multiple plugins at the same time. Now, one of the most common uses that you might have for an effects track would be a reverb send, where you don't load the reverb plugin on each track where you want to use it, where you'd rather send a signal to it. Now, the rationale for this, other than saving computing power, would be you would tailor your reverb to match the space that you're in, whether this is a musical hall or whether this is a post-production reverb that is your living room. You set that up for the location that you're busy mixing. Now, the voice you want to put in that room versus the sound effect that you want to put in that room, it's the same room. So why not use the same room in the reverb? But the sound effect might need to sound much more distant compared to the voice. So you control that by sending more or less to this reverb channel or this effects channel, and the same applies to music. I set up my concert hall reverb to sound very nice, but I want the soloist to be further towards the audience and the background musicians further away. I want them to use the same reverb. Then I use sends for that, which is a very common thing to do. Now, different to using reverb as an insert, where you have to set the dry-wet mix to be just right, which is usually quite a low number. When you use it as an effects track like this, you leave the mix at 100% because you determine the wet-dry mix by how much you send to this track. So one other thing that you'll notice when you work in Nuendo, it also has reverence, but it has a lot more convolution. So you have some post-production ones. You've got kitchens and bathrooms and furnished living rooms and TVs and telephones that you can add straight in here. With Cubase being the more music-focused one, you don't have any one of those. But let us add an absorptive stage that's slightly different to that concert hall that you heard before. Now, this is our effects track. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing is being sent here yet. This is playback on my tutorial video. This is a bit of an inception moment. Here we go. Hi everyone. In this video I'd like to talk to you about Cubase and Nuendo. So that's just the dry voice. You can see from that track the insert is not loaded. If I load it on the track, it sounds like this. Hi everyone. In this video I'd like to talk to you about Cubase and Nuendo. And as I said, I've got the mix set to 70, but the different and probably better case to do this would be to use sends. So I'm going to my track here, I'm going to sends, and I am sending some signal to my concert hall reverb. Now, the full dry signal will still come through. So when you enable this send and have it on naught, that's going to be a 50-50 blend. 50 dry signal, 50 wet signal. You don't get to go 100% wet in a reverb send case, but you usually don't want to. So this control sets how much you want to use, and it's usually less than 0. So to give you an idea, I'm just going to reset it to get a feel for what this room sounds like. Hi everyone. In this video I'd like to talk to you about Cubase and Nuendo. I just realized I put an absorptive stage on a track that I'm labeled concert hall reverb, but you can deal with this, and that is full amount, but you can see I can dial it down. Hi everyone. In this video I'd like to talk to you about Cubase and Nuendo. This video was made for the third year sounders, which gives you very fine tailored controls in terms of exactly how much reverb you want to put on some element, and you can tailor that per track. I can add another track that has more or less of the same reverb, and as I've said, with anything you can automate it, and this is something that I automate quite often. So we've already automated all these other things, but if you look at send level 1 here, I can automate how much it sends. So no reverb going into some reverb. So that's a very simple use case for this, but I use FX channels in most of my projects, especially for my reverb sends, and it's very easy to set them up in this way.